I'm Hallie, and I've been reflecting on some of my previous SEL experiences and what tools and skills I have acquired that could help me as I start learning how to do motivational interviewing. So the community organization, the organization where I've been doing my community SEL hours is called Rogue Food Unites, and they do a couple different things. One of the things they do is they put on a series of free farmers markets every week in our valley, and anybody can show up, no questions asked, and get a bag of organic produce to go home with. And then the other thing that they do that they focus on is disaster preparedness and disaster relief, and feeding people in times of disaster and emergency. So I have made some written materials for them, is mostly what I've been working on. So I've written descriptions of lesser known vegetables that people might not recognize at market. And then I've also written descriptions for the MREs, which are freeze dried meals for emergency response. And so everything that they make is all their printed materials are supposed to be at a third grade reading level or less. And so this has given me some experience in trying to put complex nutritional information or science information into simple lay terms that could be understood by a wide audience. And that isn't something that necessarily comes very easily to me, but it is, I'm noticing that with practice, it is getting easier as I do more and more of that. In my clinical hours at the hospital, I have interacted with a diverse patient population, and I have to adapt what I say to the person that I'm talking to. And sometimes somebody has a fairly high degree of health and science literacy, and I can speak differently to them than somebody who really doesn't have as much of that health and science literacy. So I've gotten some practice there with tailoring what I'm saying to whoever I'm speaking with. I've also gotten experience there asking open-ended questions. So I often, as part of my interview of patients in the hospital, I'll often say, how are you eating before you came in? Have you had any weight changes? Explain those to me. So I'll ask open-ended questions, which I think will also be helpful in learning motivational interviewing. For interviewing a family member or friend, I feel pretty comfortable with this. I think the one thing I'll have to be a little bit more aware of with them is that I will be very comfortable, and so it'll be easy to kind of want to jump in with solutions or just kind of not maybe listening as much as I might to somebody I don't know. So that's one thing that's on my mind. And I want to just make sure that I really follow the motivational interviewing framework, and I'm letting somebody come to their own conclusions and decisions. A personal strength that I feel like I have that I think will help me is, and I've noticed this especially at the hospital, is I think I'm pretty good with people. So I think my people skills will help me. I listen well. I tend to be very empathetic. And so I have noticed that people kind of like to talk to me in the hospital a lot of the times. And I think I'm warm and friendly, and I kind of have that going. And so I feel pretty confident that I'll be able to form a good rapport with my clients going forward. And so that's something that makes me feel good. Some weaknesses that I'm worried about are, well, for one, I wish I spoke better Spanish. I'm going to be working with a Spanish-speaking population later on when I go back to Rogue Food Unites. And I do speak some Spanish, but not as well as I would like to, and not well enough to really converse in a fluent way. And so that's something I have, when I have been in person with them, there have been language barriers. And so that's something that I'm nervous about. I also tend to sometimes move quickly and get excited. And so I want to make sure when I'm doing motivational interviewing that I am really listening and asking clarifying questions and not jumping in too soon with to like jumping to conclusions, and also just not jumping in with solutions, and really making sure that I'm listening and letting the client come to their own conclusions. Um, at first, I'm afraid that I might sound robotic trying to go through a list of questions. And then on the other hand, I'm afraid that if I try to make it more of a natural conversation, that I could start forgetting questions. And so I feel like this is something that will just have to come through practice. And at first, it might sound kind of unnatural and a little bit like I'm going through a list. But I think over time, as I get practice, I'll get better at making it more of a natural flowing conversation. Um, and so that's something that I think that is on my mind, but I also think that practice will help me. So those are my thoughts on my experience so far and where I'm going. All right, bye.